Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning. Just getting my iPad set up as usual. Today we are coloring, big surprise, I know. But this is going to be a short live tonight because I'm doing a virtual card banking event this weekend and I have not done my homework yet because I haven't had time. Also, my wrists have been bothering me, my hands are bothering me a bit. So I'm way behind. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll do the homework for my live tonight, but it's mostly die cutting and that is not fun to watch, especially in this vertical format. So instead, I am going to stick with my Halloween theme since Halloween is quickly approaching. And I've got these really great Wilma Elephant stamps. I really like the haunted houses that are in these, and then there's also just some extra little mummies. So I think I'm just gonna do one house tonight, and I'll probably do, this one looks like it's the biggest, so I think I'm gonna do that one. We're gonna do some watercoloring. We're gonna use Derwent pencils. Apologies. These are the Inktense pencils. They're not exactly watercolor pencils, but very similar. This isn't the right set. I grabbed the wrong one. That's okay. But Derwent Inktense pencils, and they operate a lot like watercolor pencils. So first I'm going to stamp this onto watercolor paper. I'm going to use an ink that is watercolor friendly. I'm going to use a VersaFine Onyx Black. Then we will start our coloring. So it looks like my watercolor paper. This is just from my pile of watercolor paper, so I can't tell you what kind it is because I really don't know. I believe it's something that Hero Arts puts out. It looks like something from them, but I'm not exactly sure. So it does have a little bit of texture, but it's not too much. This should stamp okay. Although I am using the positioning tool, the stamp positioning tool, just in case it is going to move. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to cut this image out later and put it on a card, or if I'm going to turn this panel into a card. So I'm going to put it into the middle. That way I have some options. I'll either be able to cut it out later or continue to decorate around it. So I think I'm going to put it about there. Maybe a little bit higher. Okay. And that looks decently centered here. I can always trim it down later. I'm putting my clear stamp into this stamp positioning tool, and it's very sticky right now because it hasn't been conditioned and I've never used this stamp before. So I am going to use my skin to actually rub off some of the manufacturing residue. Hello, Tango Mangle. It's like you're having a fun evening. So I'm just rubbing off some of that residue, and that's just gonna help make the stamp a little less sticky, but it is going to grab onto my ink and it's gonna make a great impression. So let's see if I can show you this whole process. Kind of limited under my camera here, that's okay. There we go. Just stamping that down. And ink again. The great thing about the stamp positioning tool is that if you don't get a perfect impression the first time, as you can see here, it's not perfect, and that's pretty normal for stamping, but now I can ink it and stamp it again, and it's going to be in the exact same place, and this really is a game changer for stamping. So I think part of the reason that I'm not getting a great impression here is just from the texture of the watercolor paper, but that's okay. We're going to stamp again. Just added a little bit more ink And I'm gonna focus my pressure right in that area. I'm gonna go just one more time around those windows, and that should do it. I always try to remember when I'm making cards that they don't have to be perfect anyway, because it's handmade and it's art, and if we wanted something that was perfect, we would do it maybe digitally, or we would just buy something that somebody else has made, maybe a professional has made. So I'm just wiping off the ink from my stamp so I can put this away. This is called a stamp chamois, and it's just like a wet cloth, and you can use it to rub the excess ink off. Hello, welcome, good evening. Happy Wednesday. This is going to be a short video for me tonight, a short live. I do have some other things I need to take care of tonight, but I didn't want to skip a week. I'm trying to be consistent with my Wednesday lives. So we're going to be watercoloring with some colored pencils. And if you joined last week, it's actually the same pencils I used then, and I was not intending to use them, but I couldn't find the right ink, so I ended up using a different set of pencils. And let's see, is this them? Okay, this is the ones I was looking for. So these are called Derwent Inktense, and it's kind of like a watercolor, but instead of watercolor pigment, it's actually ink. So there's ink in the pencil, and then it will be water activated. I am coloring tonight. Hi, Pendragon. Yeah, so I'm actually going to be coloring with these pencils and then adding water to activate that ink. And I grabbed a blue. I'm not sure that's the color that I needed, but actually let's go ahead and use the blue. Sometimes I like the artistic process to just kind of choose itself, and whatever happens, happens. So I just pulled this pencil out to show you what kind it was, and yeah, I'm just gonna use it. I'm adding my pencil just to the bottom of the clouds here. And when I add my water, I'm going to be able to pull that color from the bottom of the cloud up toward the top, but it will be darker at the bottom, which will give us our shading. Since I did go with that blue there, I think I'm going to add a slightly lighter blue just to make this a little more dynamic. And this is a pretty small image that we're coloring tonight, so I can spend a little bit of extra time adding some extra color. As for my house, I think a brown probably would work. I want it to look spooky, so I wish I had more colors in this pencil set, but we're keeping it simple and just using what I've got in here. So let's use a brown. This one's bark brown. And I'm gonna add this around the outside of the house so that when I add my water, it'll be darker there. And if you haven't seen pencils like this before, they really do have a lot of pigment in them, and this is going to darken up quite a bit. So Pendragon, I'm going to answer some questions from you. You said this reminds you of color by number. Oh yes. And I was talking last week about how when I color with colored pencils, I kind of feel like I'm cheating as opposed to just painting. Watercoloring with colored pencils, just it feels very easy, I guess, comparatively, because you can lay down all your color at once, and then you can go back and add in more if you need to, but you'll see once we add the water how quickly this turns from a little bit of pencil scratch to a painting. And then Pendragon also asked, does the pencil set come in that case or did you get a separate case? These pencils did not come in this case. So this was a separate purchase. Some pencils though, I think you might be able to buy these ones in a case. I like having these zipper pouches. I have all my pencils in zipper pouches because I like being able to kind of see them all at once. And I used to keep my pencils just in like a pencil box, and it's really hard to find the color that you're looking for that way. So I like having them nice and organized. I'm gonna keep this bark pencil out. I think we might end up needing that again. I'm gonna choose another brown. This is dark chocolate, and I'm gonna use this for my door. Make that a little different. I think I like the idea of doing some orangey yellow glow behind the door. I think I'm also going to use this dark chocolate color for my roof. And I'm not being super careful about coverage here because we're going to be adding water to this and the color is just going to spread everywhere. Yes, Pendragon says they're sure it makes it easier to keep sharp points. Absolutely it does. Yeah, because the way that they're in here, they stay sharp. They're not getting banged around. I do stab myself a little bit with them unintentionally because they are very sharp. I like to keep them nice and sharp, but definitely better than the box. Also, I just very recently switched from Crayola colored pencils to more of a like a student artist. They're not the world's nicest pencils or anything, but they're definitely nicer than what I'd used in the past. And the Crayola ones, yeah, they just lived in the box. Okay, I need another color for the boards, and I think more of a warm brown would make sense for that. So I'm just gonna grab Baked Earth. This is my third brown. Nice and easy to do here. I have this cute little kitty. Let's see if we can zoom in a little. Yeah. There's a cute little kitty on some pumpkins out here. I think it makes sense to make him a black cat, so probably use gray for that. And I'm noticing now that I'm zoomed in and I'm looking a little closer, I colored my door with this dark chocolate brown. I should do my window frames with that same color while I'm thinking about it. So that way all the frames are the same. And then there are also these little loopy things on the top of the house. I assume that they're gonna be solid, so I'm just gonna use the same color here. Hello, Scott. Yes, thank you, Pendragon. I am using my hands down here, and my phone is really locked in, so it's hard for me to do much with the chat, but that's okay. I haven't been called any names in a long time, so it was okay. Let's see. How you doing, Scott? I've got a great orange here for my pumpkins. And I'm going to use a gray for my kitty, and probably the same gray for my gravestone here. And then it's time to add the water, and it's going to go really quick from there. Yeah, I had a feeling. 10-year-old or a bot. It all happened very quick. Nobody else was in here. So, okay. I actually wasn't even sure if people who joined later could see the previous chat, but I guess you can. I guess that question is answered for me. I mentioned wanting to do some sort of a glow back here, so I'm going to add a little bit of yellow and a little bit of a red orange. Okay, I think that's it. It's time for the water. So if you're just joining us, we are doing a little bit of symbol coloring today. We're going to use some water to activate these pencils. And I always say, I feel like I'm cheating when I do this because it just happens so fast. The first thing that I put my shading in was the clouds. So I'll start there. And you can see how quickly I got that nice gradient with just a little bit of water. For these clouds, I used a darker blue at the bottom and then a lighter blue in the middle. And then I'm just pulling my color up. Just takes a couple seconds per cloud. I have a nice gradient. These pencils are very pigmented. I guess we'll do the roof next. It's nice when you're watercoloring to work in areas that are not touching each other, non-adjacent areas, so that you don't get color running from one wet area into another. And you can see when I added this water to this area, this didn't even look brown before, it looked gray, right? There's a lot of pigment in those pencils. Pendragon, I actually make a lot of cards. That is most of what my channel is all about, and that's where this is gonna go. Once I'm finished coloring this, and I'm sure it won't be today or even this week, but it's gonna end up on a card, on a greeting card. I'm gonna jump down to my gravestone here, jump over to my little kitty. It was a very good guess. Yes. Got my boards for my windows. Gosh. Yeah, I mean, I love doing this. It just feels like too easy. It feels like those books that you can get when you're a kid that have the color already on the page and you just activate it with the water. The only difference is, you know, you have to add the color yourself, but you don't have to do it carefully. You can do it really quickly and still get really great results. So. I love watching the transformation. Doesn't matter how many times I do it, every time, like, wow, what a cool medium. All right, we've only got a couple of areas left and we're all done. Told you this was going to be a short one tonight. I am going to take a moment to let the frame dry before I go in and do my glow. And the other thing with coloring like this is that if you want to add more depth, once this is dry, you can definitely go back in, add more pencil, add more water. These colors, once they are dry, they set and they won't be reactivated. So it's really easy to layer your color up. But this is not going in a gallery. This is going on a greeting card. And so one layer of watercolor pencil will be enough. Wow. I don't know how I didn't notice it, but there's little pumpkin stems on there. I should add a little bit of green. Don't want to leave those white. Okay, so it's just my glow now. And I was very sloppy when I did this. I did a little scribble of yellow in the middle of each window, and then I did a little uneven scribble of a red orange around the outside. So we'll see how it turns out. I am gonna work from the inside out. I'm gonna clean my brush in between each window, because I do want to keep some of that yellow. And if I work from the outside in, I will certainly turn it all orange. Going for spooky. I'm gonna dab off a little bit of the water. And I think that's it for tonight. So I will certainly post this as a completed project at some point in the next couple of weeks. What I imagine I'm gonna do is either watercolor the background, or I'll cut out everything here really carefully and then I'll put it on top of another background. It'll just depend on my mood, I think. But I want a dark sky. I think I want a moon, maybe a couple of bats. Let's see, what else is in the stamp set? This stamp set has some ghosts and a cute little sentiment, but it also coordinates with these ones, and I've got bats here. Maybe the witch with another cat in the sky. We've got a few options. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I plan on being back next Wednesday. Although I mentioned my wrists have been bothering me, I'm dealing with a carpal tunnel flare, and next Wednesday I have an appointment, another appointment, and they may be giving me injections, and I don't know what that will do for my crafting, but I'll probably see you next Wednesday at the same time. Have a great evening.